Hi there, everyone. So it's me again, Dr. Annabelle A. Gordonas, your session trainer for today for our national webinar training on digital and media platforms. Okay, so we are on our session 3 module, and this is titled Facilitating Flexible Learning During Educational Disruption, the What's and the How. So in this session, I'll be dealing with the different topics to wit, flexible learning, online learning, utilizing edtech tools, and some bold initiatives and innovations which are actually happening around the world. Okay, so when the curve ball of pandemic, which is COVID-19, has been throwing at us, and the various quarantine processes that we are experiencing in this unprecedented pandemic, we tend to process, no? Because we are changing the shift that we used to do from the normal life before to that of the new normal that we are actually experiencing nowadays. So physical distancing has been considered to be impossible for now. Okay, so I hope maybe in a year or two we can be able to do the face-to-face interaction in the class. The next one is the contactless transaction. So I guess you're familiar with this. When you buy something, you're just doing it through a delivery, and when you pay, you do it through an online transaction, which is considered one of the big innovations in the course of Industry 4.0, right? So another one is high safety precautions. When we go out, we always do safety protocols now. We are doing this for our family and loved ones, I guess. And the next one, there is no face-to-face meeting. So you have observed that in your school, the Zoom meetings have been considered to be the most famous learning community in the Philippines. Okay, so, however, yun nga, let us be careful of our security and privacy, because we have seen and we have read that some of the Zoom meetings were invaded by undesirable people, okay, who tend to bring distraction in the so-called meeting, okay, and selective transactions, okay, where essential workers are doing that, okay. So this will be the new things that we'll be facing in this year or in the future, okay. Basically, siguro, no, we're going to buy PPEs when we tend to render our duty in our school, and I don't know what would be the situation of the Philippines when we start our classes come August. But I still believe, no, with our government's efforts, especially the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education, have been proposing programs and policies regarding COVID-19, so that they can possibly offer, no, quality service to us, to all of us, the teachers, parents, administrators, and most importantly, the students. Okay. So one of my favorite author in management is Charles Handy. He's actually a famous writer in various management books. That's why I would like to share to you this type of principle that I am always amused of, because I guess it's very useful in this present time of we are experiencing. Okay, so the sigmoid or Sigmoid curve by Charles Handy. Okay, so as you can see, we do have the two curves here. The first curve is pink, and the second one is the blue one, which is going upward. If we see this in the context of our career, our educational condition today, or any other existing conditions, no, for every Filipino or all the people around the globe, you would see that there are two curves here where the first curve already traverses, no, upward, the pink one, and this particular curve has been adapting a major change, another plan to establish this particular curve before going downward. Okay, so from that curve in the middle, no, while at the core of its maybe journey, okay, so the curve goes upward, no? So this type of principle could be applied in our personal life as a teacher. Okay, I understand that some teachers do not have access to online learning, and that's true. It's basically true. Me, being a teacher of an instructional multimedia for maybe 3 years, I've been adept to various instructional design approaches and applications. But I would say that I still lack the ability to really embrace this type of new normal, except for those who are really experts like the IT people, right? Or any other people who are really spending their lifetime training and educating themselves as regards information, communication, and technology. So Charles Handy was trying to implicate that in the course of the business, education, or whatever, we should be prepared. Well, you are in the verge of happiness before we will face a failure. We must make a plan and draft our blueprint toward achieving a new goal. Okay? So why am I saying this? Because with the recent crisis that we are actually experiencing now, our government has been proposing the use of flexible learning, okay? Because we could not possibly do the face-to-face interaction. So it comes from the word flexible. So it means to say that the students, may access our resources through online, or it could not be either online or through asynchronous. It depends. It depends on the approach of a certain school, no? So it is where the students can access in their own place, space, and time of study. Okay, so it's a set of educational approaches and systems concerned with providing learners with increased choice, okay, convenience, and personalization to suit their needs. I am a professor in a certain university, and I believe our students come from different places, from the rural and urban areas. When our president announced that we are going to transition to online learning, there were actually a majority of students were making a petition letter addressed to our president because their main concern is the internet connection, their gadget, that will be used. And so it was stopped actually because I really appreciate the president because he has a heart and empathy for our students. And so we were considered enough, but I was not considered when one student texted me and he said, "Mom, please let me pass." And for the 14 meetings that we have, never has it, never did he attend my class, imagine. So I don't like mass promotion at all, okay? So when I say flexible learning, it's where the students would be able to access the content resources that we are uploading via the learner management system, the assessment, the technologies, the ease of use, the time, the schedule, and any other important information so that our students will have the access while we are still in the time of crisis. Okay? Now, these are the example of flexible learning activities that you can do for now, yeah. because it's included actually in the principle when you say flexible learning activities. Face-to-face could be, but yun nga, one of my friends no, in Surigao City, who is a principal, was telling me today that maybe they will not go for online learning. Anyway, if you're going to try, Surigao has a minimal, or I guess for now, they have only one case no, for COVID-19. So, but he is, I mean, according to my friend, she's still waiting for the memo if what possible flexible learning activities would the Department of Education in Caraga region no, would be giving them. No? So the next one is websites, discussion boards, online tasks. So if you are enrolled in a certain LMS, there are actually platforms where you can discuss to your students. They can post questions and inquiries regarding the particular task that you're giving them. You also have CDs, rooms, hard drives, broadcast video, which is actually quite confusing nowadays because there are heaps of video conferencing applications. No? So, my dear teachers, we do have Screencastify for Google. You can record for a 5-minute video via Google Chrome. So, it's actually great. No? We also have this app that I'm using. So, we do have teleconferencing or video conferencing, which are actually vital for now because we are still very lucky. Heaps of developers are presenting their various apps in order to guide us or maybe deliver some new flexible applications so that we can perform some of the flexible learning activities in the virtual classroom that we are about to launch come August. Okay? So we also have note making. For now, there are plenty of applications which are basically into note making. So it depends on you what to choose based on your preference or to the accessibility that you would like to get from this note making. Group discussions, debates, this is strategy for you to encourage your students to do collaborative work. Surveys, well, the Google Forms is quite popular nowadays. Actually, I would say that the generation now who are doing their masters and doctorate degrees are quite fortunate because they can do their thesis surveys. They may do it if they would like to through online Google Forms. So it's a kind of a new innovation that it was 10 years ago, okay, or maybe 15 years ago when 14 years ago when I got my doctorate degree. In that time, the setup was not yet here. Okay, it was not that the setup. It's not that. Oh my God. So we also have Google Forms or surveys. So we also have surveys, which is quite popular nowadays. No, actually, those students who are taking masters and doctorate degrees are quite fortunate nowadays because they could do their surveys via online. Okay, accessing and completing exercises and gathering information. Okay. Facebook has been used as an effective way of presenting an information. It's quite fast and effective. But when it comes to security and privacy, maybe you can choose another alternative, especially when it comes to delivering your content and other assessment tasks for your students. Also, you have lab work. Okay. Now, the characteristics of flexible learning, according to Collins, could be summarized into 4 categories. The first one is rich learning resources, okay, which is basically not true 100% in our country. Okay, so it's the job of the teacher to please do an assessment first in order to identify, describe, explain, and evaluate to what extent, no, would the students respond to the kind of approach that you'll be using when it comes to flexible learning. And because I would say there are heaps of abundant learning materials in the internet, right? The open educational resources, the commons, where students can right away uh, research on a particular topic, or if they would like to explore on games, you can do that. No? So, however, we need to guide them to choose certain content with quality, of course, those with license, because we do have OERs which are basically free and are legal, no, for sharing. The next one is ownership of learning. So through flexible learning, students are given the chance to express themselves and do independent tasks interactively with the teacher's guidance. So from that, this could be another way, no, of letting them reflect and explore their role as a 21st century learner. Okay, the next one is learner centered, because it's an active process, no? They're given the chance to experience authentic real life learning experiences in the virtual classroom, no? So real situations are provided by the teacher so that students may be able to present and demonstrate, no, a certain output at the end of the day. No, it's not about us; it's about them, no, to be able to empower themselves as learners, even effective learners in the time of pandemic. And the next one is diversified resources. I guess you can relate with me when we describe the resources 20 years ago, 10 years ago, where we do not have our gadget and we spend our time mostly in the library taking notes, you know, whenever we do have free time. But now you can see that the learners are actually quite fortunate enough to have the wide array of learning resources. Now, it depends on them what to choose of the types of materials that they will be using in the classroom context. So let me discuss to you the dimensions of flexibility. Okay, so see, from the word flexi or flexible, you know, so it caters both the students and the teachers. Even the administrators are actually included because they're the ones supporting the program. How can the teachers be able to cascade a certain program or maybe demonstrate and execute if the administrators are not actually cooperating? Okay, so the first dimension is learning Nalu. So in this time for now, the learning environment is virtual. So um, again, let's go back, no, to the word that I have mentioned a while ago, and that's empathy. Okay, let's put ourselves to the shoes of our students, our co-teachers. Some of them do not have the luxury of having a laptop, a gadget. So I hope you are going to be flexible with the way how you formulate your course content, you know, which are actually based on the uh, competency guides, no, or the milk prescribed by the Department of Education and the syllabus for the CHED, and the assessments that you do. For the students, you're always downloading uploading assessments for the students to download and answer in hard copy or whatever. So let's try to be considerate enough as to when we let them do something, they would be able to rightfully uh, react and innovate, on a particular topic that we would like them to do. Okay. So the next one is students learning. So I've mentioned that the most important person nowadays in the course of educational sector is our students. Okay. I guess they do have some problems, personally, especially this time of crisis. They feel anxious because they want to go to school and they want to be with their classmates. They want to play and other things that they are normally doing. So let's try to make our learning resources fun, meaningful, and enjoyable when we upload some resources. Okay. I always tell you, from the seminars that I have uh, given from the other modules, that always embrace the principle of being less, because you can offer more when it comes to whatever dimension you'll be offering. So let's try to train and hone on students so that they may be able to embrace the aspects of nurturing them with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Okay. Because the employers of these learners are not actually basing from the grades. They are more on the KSA that our students will be acquiring as they are uh, on the verge of their schooling. Okay. The next one is instruction delivery. Okay. So let's try to do synchronously or asynchronously. So for those students who have sorry, you have the gadget, the materials, so you can do synchronous. And those students who have the ability to just respond via module, or they can submit it through a certain courier or delivery. So please try to be flexible and agile to whatever a situation our students are experiencing nowadays. Okay. So when it comes to strategies, there are actually heaps. It depends on you, because the strategies that we normally do in the classroom could also be applied in our virtual classroom environment. You just modify it and reinforce some modifications so that the learners will enjoy, this new dimension of being able to respond, okay, to the new education that they're experiencing. The learning resources, so there are heaps of materials. To be honest, I am quite happy because it's been 3 years I've been attending online trainings, online courses, and any other innovations which would help me uh, demonstrate a sense of professional development. So when this problem arises, it's not a problem for me to adjust. Okay, for example, how to record, but we need to have coaches as well. If you don't know that, so we can have the tutorials via YouTube. For example, how to record in a PowerPoint, so you can type Screencastify and you download it via your Google Chrome. In Bingo, you can already video yourself while teaching. So we should be open because we are in the age of openness where everything is there. It's offered. Okay? In technologies. So sometimes we have a problem with our laptop because it's quite slow when it comes to the service that it is giving us. The internet connection, the gadget, because some of the apps need to be Android. It has to be an Android related specification. It has to be like that. Okay, so and we do have sometimes problems financially, so it hinders, especially ours. What about our students who come from poor families? Okay, so we should be flexible as to what and how we are going to deliver our service to our students. And assessment. This is one of the things that is quite important, because how can we test the understanding of our students if we didn't know how to do our diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment? The things that we do and we let them do in the formative assessments will identify who they are in terms of the assessment or summative assessment that they are about to perform. It could be standardized tests or any performance-based task that you would like them to do, design and craft. So we should be, the assessment is crucial. Okay. Now, in applying online learning to provide flexible education, it is also important for us to embrace the challenge. Okay. Because this is the new things that we are actually about to experience in August. That's why we do have the technology enhanced learning. Okay. So what is TEL? So TEL has several dimensions. So the first one is intrinsic access to e-learning. Okay. So when we provide materials, assessments, group work activities, individual performance tasks, okay, we should see to it that our students have that personal touch of really appreciating the various things that we upload, because as a teacher, you are able to do the needs assessment. That's why in our module 2, I discuss about the learning theory and the multiple intelligences. Because when we design a certain module, everything else must be done. Okay, so we are considering the learning profiles, the readiness, the interests, the backgrounds, multiple intelligences of our students when we are going to present our learning materials. The next one is virtual learning environments. So whether it would be synchronous, asynchronous, online learning, our job is to support, guide, and facilitate our students. So we should give our passion and compassion to perform the job. If your student fails to take the summative test, so you would likely maybe ask yourself, bakit hindi nakatake yung student ko, siya lang? So maybe you can contact the student, and pag nakita mo naman or narinig mo yung reason ng student mo, so you should be flexible enough. Next one is learning management systems. I've been using Schoology for 3 years and it's quite effective in user-friendly. It has a sense of privacy, security, and other things. All of the materials uploaded, downloaded, or whatever materials that I have presented in there, and vice versa from my students' submission requirements. So it's there even up until now. It depends on me being the administrator to maybe erase or what. So Schoology has grade books, attendance, you can post your quizzes or assessments, you can have there is item analysis already, so everything is there. It's like Facebook, but when it comes to licensing, security, privacy, I would prefer Schoology. Okay, we also have Khan Academy, Google. Google Classroom, it's also nice. I've been using it, but it depends on our preferences, okay? So next one is the users. So naturally, we are the users and the students. So there should be a balance as to how are we going to use it purposively, where students can and will learn at the end of our session. So when I say online learning, it's defined as learning experiences in synchronous or asynchronous environments using different devices with mobile phones, laptops, and with internet access. To tell you honestly, I've been attending meetings via Zoom, and sometimes the signal is quite erratic, so I really got a problem for that. You know? I prefer recorded presentations because I did not think of the connection that might stop while I am talking. So it will really disrupt you a lot. While with pre-recording, you are there, you're just, it seems you are just in the classroom. Okay, but there are several preparations, of course, when you do uh, pre-recorded presentations. Okay, so how to provide online learning? It could be synchronous. You can do this online. Lahat kayo sabay-sabay nandun via Zoom meetings, with online connection. And well, asynchronous, depende. It could be offline and online. Okay, for example, if you're letting your students do the LMS and they're answering in their own time, place, and study, then they can do that. Okay, so open learning naman, yeah, from the word open. So everything is there, it's provided. So it depends on you. I mean, the ball is in your hands, my dear participants, on what to choose from this wide array of resources. But never forget that we are still the number one source of knowledge. So nobody replaces us. That's the personal mantra. That should be the personal mantra of every teacher. Now, we have the so-called disrupted classes and undisrupted learning. And along the way, there are various agencies and elements who are helping to really come into place and tie the promise of quality education. Okay, so we do have the government, the school, and the social service type. These are the agencies who are really nurturing the needs of every learner around the globe. For now, we do have how many? We have 1 billion learners who are actually affected in this pandemic. So I have presented you some tools in our digital and media platforms talk. So when it comes to utilizing friendly tools, if you have some colleagues who are still on the process of being digital immigrants, when you say immigrant, they are still learning. They are already having that knowledge when it comes to technology, but they need to innovate and step up to become digital native. So may I recommend you this platform? So do you have information literacy? Okay. We do have media literacy network, global create critical thinking, and communicate and collaborate. So I hope you'll try to explore, although I'm pretty sure that the majority of these apps are familiar to you. Okay. So in utilizing tools, I have here an example. Okay. So we do have the categories of tools. For example, because it's June and July, so I would like to record my topics. For example, if you decide to do that, so for a PPT recording software, you need to choose suitable teaching scenarios. Okay, so for PPT assisted video recording, you can have PowerPoint, WPS in Windows, Keynote in iOS system, the OBS, Filmora, and other video recording type of app. Okay, for screen capture software for video editing, especially suitable for producing software operation courses. We can have Camtasia, Studio QuickTime, Adobe Premiere, OBS, Filmora. Okay, sorry. So for software or video production, we can have Huawei Course Maker app. Okay. For the software original video producing, you have Cam Scanner and mobile phones. Multimedia learning resource producing, you have Mystic Raft, Snow Captivate. Okay. All types of live streaming software, including software on interactive teaching, okay, remote office, online course, o diba? So you can use this for in classroom, Tencent, okay, learning app, and any other Zoom, TED conversations, etc. All kinds of online teaching platforms in national level, regional level, and community level. So this is suitable for asynchronous. I vouch for MOOC or Massive Open Online Course. So I hope you have now a great perspective on what is flexible learning. Okay, so for now we are going to discuss on how to adopt suitable digital learning resources. Okay, so I have also mentioned in our module 1 about the open learning resources. So since we are in the age of openness, heaps of materials are freely available in the internet, but we should never forget the licensing of this particular app that you're using, especially when you are downloading open educational resources in other applications. So when you see open learning resources, it refers to materials included in the context of a course that support the learner's achievement of the described learning goals. So we are going to be in the verge, or we will be transitioning the goal of digital learning resources. So this is the concept of the total quality management. Do the right things right the first time, every time. Okay. So excellence is a habit. So making mistakes is a no-no. Well, it's okay to be committing mistakes or errors, but at least we are always seeking, in doing things with quality. Because in teaching, we should not commit mistakes, because we are committing crime if we do that. Okay. So when we evaluate the suitability of digital learning resources, ayan na, kasi ang dami nating ina-attend na trainings. So be sure may licensing yan. Normally, mga OERs from America and other credible countries, talagang ano naman po when it comes to licensing. Accuracy, kumusta naman po yung mga content na nandun, assessment that you are adapting or modifying. Would it be answering or responding to the needs of your students? Interactivity, ease of adaptability, user-friendly ba siya for your students? May cultural relevance ba? You need also to let them embrace who they are, okay? To put a personal touch of being a Filipino in whatever you are introducing. That's why you have the contextualization, right? Because it's where you are modifying your material to the community that you are serving in suitable learning resources. So, instructional organization of learning, well, you're familiar with this. One is lecture. You can do a recorded video to do lectures if you have a problem in internet connection. It's where it's still a teacher-directed type of instruction where the teacher is expected to deliver advanced lessons, great material content, etc. Okay, so here the learning is based from the teacher. The next one is the case study. You will let your students do a collaborative learning of finding something, no, for them to study at. So this is a great pedagogy for you to let them explore and share something big and comply in your assessment. The next one is debate. It's where your students are given the chance to express freely their ideas on one particular topic, and you let them collaborate with their classmates. Student-led discovery. So since we are following the learner-centered type of curriculum, so we need to present materials where we basically steer their attention. And I guess you're familiar with all of those, like integrative teaching, reflective teaching, what else? You have constructivism approach and all of those things. I guess you're familiar with those things because we do have prior trainings for that. And experiential learning, which is basically encouraging the teachers to produce real ground life problems in the presentation of course content, materials, learning resources, and assessments. Be sure that students are able to relate their own personal ideas, principles, situations when you are when you are adapting the experiential learning. Brainstorming is one way to gather and get their insights or pulse. No? So there are actually heaps of apps which you can use. Mentimeter, Slido.com, can also have Schoology for that matter. Okay, drill and practice. Okay, so these are just some. I guess you're familiar with these things, and you may just choose and select appropriate app, no, to possibly let your students perform and demonstrate a certain skill that you would like them to do. Okay, so we do have here organization forms of online learning, which could be synchronous, and organization forms of learning, which could be asynchronous. Okay, so online means you are live streaming. There is an existing teaching courseware. Students are with you, listening, asking questions. You are focused in teaching the instruction, right? Sorry. And we do have asynchronous. One of the famous LMS for this is Google Classroom, the massive open online course. The students can download the materials offline. It can be online as well. Okay? So, the next one is seven core elements of effective online education in emergencies. Okay? So, we do have reliable network infrastructure, using friendly tools, providing interactive, suitable digital learning resources plan, guiding learners to apply effective learning methods, promoting effective methods, providing instant services, and empowering the partnership between governments, enterprises, and schools. So I've been mentioning this from my other slides, and so what do we need for this type of situation? Let's accept it. We are in this time that we need to have, we need to embrace the attitude of being welcoming, open, and passionate about the things that we love and do. Okay. Now let me share to you some high quality resources that you can use in the classroom. The first one is Khan Academy from California, United States, where it's a learning resource where students can navigate and innovate in science, arts, mathematics, history, etc. Okay, so you may want, if you want to have this type of platform in your learning resource, so you may explore Khan Academy. TED Ed at home. So parents are being disrupted, teachers, students. So that's why TED Ed has been uh, presenting this type of app. Okay, it's a great way of discovering new stories, lessons to share while at home. Okay, so please try to also explore in this app. Minecraft Education Edition. It's a gamification type of an app. During the siesta time, you may want to explore in this for your child, but always guide him or her so that they are still able to uh, appreciate the beauty, of love, in time of pandemic. National Geographic Learning, or the National Geographic Education from United States. This speaks of geography, nature, and any other type of content material relating to geographic education. So this is very much useful for science teachers, else arts, in other subjects. Google Arts and Culture. So if you want your students to be more adept with the new apps, so you may try to let them introduce this Google Arts and Culture. Newzilla, it's still a learning resource for gamification, to study, to do interactive videos, to answer assessments. So always, try to also consider Newzilla. Headspace for Kids, it's actually a great app for yoga. It's a yoga type of material where students are given the chance to enliven their mindfulness in time of crisis. So it's fun, meaningful, and enjoyable. Read theory. This is one thing to elevate the reading comprehension of your students. So vocabulary terms and other suitable learning materials in helping them to become effective readers. So you can have this read theory. So amidst the problems that we are facing nowadays, there are famous organizations and other agencies who've been doing innovations in order to cope up with the recent crisis. So OutSchool, where students are collaborating, teachers, educators, etc. Actually, I have been mentioning about the Zoom, right? Penpal schools, students connect and collaborate. They share their stories, inspiring learning experiences. So that's Penpal schools. Stories for Solidarity speaks about the youth on how they are combating change around the globe. So this comes from the United States. Newsletter project is from United States. This is actually initiated by the newsletter project itself in order to make the people updated as regards the pandemic crisis. So please try to open this. Because this is quite new, because we're always relying from the news, from the news story. So this is also one thing to also innovate when it comes to getting resources. School day at home. This is for parents and students to make themselves productive. Okay. Go Noodle at home for children who would like to view a learning fun-filled kind of experience. So please try to open this. Otsimo, this is for children with disability. So may mga applications for those who cannot who have difficulty in speaking, or mga speech delays and other motor skill relative problems. Okay, so please try to open Otsimo app. Kahoot. I guess you're familiar with this one. Okay, it's some online gamification where students are becoming interactive when you're presenting a certain question. The Scratch, where students are given the chance to be interactive as well as to the various things that you would like to explore in science, in mathematics, etc. Now in time of pandemic, so maybe you can, you can explore learning other countries' languages, okay? So why not download Duolingo? So this is a great app for us to be able to also innovate when it comes to learning languages around the world. Okay. Spotlight quality education for all during COVID-19 crisis. So we do have the bold initiatives that we can use as an inspiration. Okay, broadcasting nationwide. So broadcasters and anchors have been really dedicated. Actually, they're frontliners as well, who are really committed in delivering quality news amid this time of COVID-19. Businesses helping meet education needs in Finland. They're donating laptops and any other gadget and equipment in order to support the affected sectors. Okay, virtually connecting with the world, of educating educators for the future. These are actually teachers who are collaborating and connecting with each other in order to support, share, collaborate, benchmark, etc. Okay? Politicians addressing students. So let's benchmark the prime ministers of Norway and New Zealand, but they're doing good when it comes to COVID-19. Bringing communities together, so this is quite good. And reaching children and students in remote locations from Norway and New Zealand. So we are aware of the vulnerable populations who are affected nowadays. So I hope every one of us will be including them in our prayers. I guess we're still very lucky. Would you have the luxury of still enjoying the time while at home? So let's try to also be mindful of these people and children. So my dear teachers, my hat tip for today, do not forget about digital well-being, where we're still thinking of the positive things ahead of us, even if we are really thinking sometimes of the debts that have been skyrocketingly affecting every country, right? So let us try to be let's try to be positive about all of those in order to really face the future. Okay, privacy. I've been mentioning some of the elements that you may use, because sometimes as you download everything or give your personal information via internet, you are already exposing yourself. Okay, security and safety. Okay, so may we have the PPE suit of courage, to always look for the future. Never mind the trials and tribulations along the way, as long as we are passionate for our job as teachers. Let's be courageous in finding ways how to reach out to our students, especially the vulnerable ones. Googles of empathy. Let's try to always think the least, the lost, and the last. Okay? Compassion, to always embrace love and care for others. The face mask of hope. Alongside with this pandemic, everything will be alright. This too shall pass. And show cover of perseverance. So, my dear teachers, I hope that it has been a fruitful learning experience being with you now. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me. I would like to thank you all for being with me, and mabuhay po kayong lahat. Kudos. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Annabelle A. Gordonas. I am currently a full-time professor in Polytechnic University of the Philippines. So in this module, we are going to discuss the session title, The Landscape of Research and Pedagogy in an Unfolding Pandemic, Its Relevance and Integration of Learning. It is a fact that in our module 1, we have uncovered the how-tos of digital media and platforms, alongside with how we are going to establish connection to the online learning that we are going to embrace come August, as the opening of classes will be starting. So aside from the ability to educate ourselves with the vast knowledge of digital media, because it's already inevitable, never forget the importance of research and pedagogy, because we are targeting how our students would be able to be active learners at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so my topic will embody the landscape of education 4.0 in the time of COVID-19, the Philippine Teaching Excellence Framework, the 7 C's, capacity building as a process, and instructional design. Now, it is a fact that it's quite Herculean task for all of us, as we are getting a paradigm shift, no, with the current educational system that the Philippines is experiencing. That's why equilibrium of, or the power of balance, must always be our priority, because alongside with all of these things that we are learning every day, we should never forget that we need to also consider our psychological needs, especially to our learners, where safety and survival should be our first priority for them to be able to exhibit within themselves. Okay, so must love first before bloom. Okay, that's the principle of it. So we will have a short activity titled My Think, Feel, and Do Profile. Now, my dear teachers, I want you to get a pen and a paper for now. Okay, and so I guess you have now your pen and paper. I want you to draw a learner, okay, with the head, the heart, and the hands. Okay, my think, feel, and do. So the think represents the head. Here represents the heart, which is the feel, and the hands represents the actions. Okay, so you're going to give your ideas on the rise of COVID-19. You know? So for every symbol, you're going to put one word only. Okay, and let's try to analyze your answer. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that, and your time starts now. Thank you. So I guess you have now drawn your my think, feel, and do profile, because the directions was for you to draw, although not a perfect drawing, but you need to draw your pupil, like which exhibits the think, feel, and do profile. Now after that, you're going to describe what are you thinking, feeling, and doing in the rise of COVID-19. Well, if you're going to ask me, for now, my think profile would be, I'm I'm confused practically because at the onset, no, I was not. I mean, I could not get the idea that we'll be transitioning to another shift, and that is maybe to employ synchronous or asynchronous learning. No, I am confused for my students because I don't know if they're going to face it, especially when the internet connection is one of the problems. Feel I am excited because with all of the webinars and trainings that I have attended, I think that this is the best time that I could apply it and share it to my learners. My keyword is apply, so I promise to apply all the education and training I have experienced so that possibly I could help and navigate my students, no, face the future, especially in this time of unfolding pandemic. Okay, so you too could reflect on the ones you are doing now, and maybe you can share this one to your colleagues as what we're thinking, feeling, and doing for now. And never forget the acronym VUCA. Okay, the VUCA acronym stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Okay, so with the rise of education 4.0 or the industry 4.0, I think as a teacher we need to uncover, the things that we need to settle first, because there are things happening around us in just a speed of time. It's uncontrollable, and here we go with the rise of COVID-19. It left us struck, right? I mean, who would expect this type of challenging situation? And never forget that our students right now are actually having anxieties because they're not used to social distancing. They want to learn where face-to-face connection is there. They can go to regular schooling, they can meet their classmates, but now everything changed. Okay, so how do we support their psychological needs? We're in from this time of pandemic, the feeling of belongingness, their everyday necessity, the food, clothing, shelter, etc. Okay, so we do have also this term, uncertainty. Things are becoming more and more complex. You don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. And with the complexity that we are experiencing now, how do we cope up with this one? If we're not going to take a leap of faith with this problem, who would do it for us? I mean, if you think I don't like digital media, I would like to still do face-to-face interaction, but you cannot do that for now because of the recent pandemic. So there are a majority of teachers are considered to be digital immigrants, although they know Kahoot, they know Z-Grade, but our digital natives nowadays are increasingly voluminous. They're highly advanced with augmented technology, and the best way for us to do that is to be at par with them. That's why education and training play a crucial role, in molding our teachers to become tech savvy in this time of pandemic. And the last one is ambiguity. So things are becoming vague, and the best way for us to do that is to always prepare our senses on how to cope up with this big challenge. And we're also aware of the education 4.0 that we have experienced nowadays. Actually, when this is the counterpart of industry 4.0, where industries are calling the educational sectors to match their qualifications and producing their learners who are harnessed when it comes to global competencies. So the challenge here is with the inclusion of the Internet of Things, the big data, the nanotechnology, all of these are actually pivotal, to who we are now as 21st century educators and learners. Okay, so I guess you're familiar with the different working generations which started from the matures or the veterans. Okay, of course you can trace when we are talking about the matures or the veterans. This speaks of the generation which reflects the World War One. So here, the digital working generations, and I guess you're familiar with the working generations before and now. Okay, the first one is actually called the matures or the veterans, which could be traced from the time of World War II, Korean War, and we also have the baby boomers. This was the time when Trump was born. There was the rise of the television, and we also have the Zennials, the time of Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, etc. We also have the Generation Z, who are considered to be millennials, and the digital working generations, who are described to be influencers, adventurers, tech-savvy, digital natives. So with all of this, with this current digital working generation, how are you going to cope up with it as a teacher? Will you just be sitting and observing and not doing your own thing, or always attend webinars? But I have a hard time in dealing with webinars because within the 2-month duration of quarantine, I've been attending webinars, and there are webinars which are considered to be really useful and vital. For example, I've been attending TESOL webinars, UNESCO, OECD, but some webinars have the same common discussion, interpretations, challenges. Okay, so there is a need for us to be selective sometimes when it comes to employing webinars in our own platforms, because these are actually practical information that we are going to apply in our respective classroom situations. Okay, so the Commission on Higher Education has been establishing this Republic Act 7722. Republic Act 7722 stipulates that the analyst of the knowledge society or knowledge economy characterize the university not just as a generator of knowledge, an educator of young minds, and a transmitter of culture, but also as a major agent of economic growth. So it is both a research and development laboratory and a mechanism through which the nation builds its human capital to enable it to actively participate in the global economy. As a matter of fact, the world of research has been trajectory to our situation nowadays. Because of research, we are able to discover this particular pandemic. Because of research, we are able to reach out and help other people, especially the vulnerable populations. So never underestimate the power of research. Okay? What I'm trying to say here is, when we integrate learning in our learner management system, aside from the content that we are teaching our students to be critical thinkers, we should never forget to integrate in our lesson the importance of research attribute within our learners. Okay, why? The CMO, or the Commission CMO number 52 series of 2016, has been postulating the importance of pathways to equity, relevance, and advancement in research, innovation, and extension in education. So it means to say that there should be a balance, on how a teacher should forgo with all of the decisions that he or she is establishing nowadays. Although, may I remind you, again, that we should also first to take into consideration the psychological needs of the teachers and most importantly our learners. But never forget this: pathways to equity, relevance, and advancement. So as a teacher, we do have several functions. The first one is instruction. So it means to say that every day we must see to it that we are establishing ourselves to become better and effective teachers. We are part of establishing learning modalities, especially now that we are experiencing a major turmoil around the globe. Okay, the next one is for us to be able to be or to take part in the curricular programs that we are undertaking nowadays. And lastly, Aristotle once said that excellence is a habit, so we should never forget that there is a need for us to maintain the quality and excellence within our culture. Okay, the next one is research, innovation, and productivity. This criteria has been tantamount to who we are nowadays. As a matter of fact, every day the scientists are discovering possible vaccines for the pandemic that we are experiencing. So we should never forget that this particular attribute, aside from we are also wanting to have this as teachers, we are also training and nurturing our students to become innovators of designing something, creating something. Okay, so that at the end of the day, at the end of this tunnel, we could be helping them to become productive citizens. And we also have community or industry engagement. Well, the physical distancing is inevitable nowadays, but I guess you would agree with me that communication, the ability to reach out to communities could be one of the best things that we do in order to effect change within us, to our learners, and the community we are serving. It means to say that we are establishing a linkage toward our community, strengthen partnerships with the stakeholders, the parents, the school, the local government units, in other agencies where, although the main priorities for our learners, we need to establish a connection within our partner agencies in order to possibly cater the best quality service for our clientele. That is why it boils into training human and intellectual capital in ICT. I guess the Department of Education and the Commission of Higher Education have been training teachers to design modules, create content, pedagogy, etc. But on top of it, it is also imperative for us to also solidify our skills in using and designing ICT supported programs, okay, in the learner management that we are choosing in our context. So the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and TESDA have been interconnecting each other because they believe that the ultimate vision is to train all talents and innovators so that at the end of the day, the Philippines would be able to produce a global repertoire of educators and researchers. Okay, the vision is to mine all talents, and the mission is there should be no left behind. But with the accessibility, with the proximity that other teachers may have, sometimes it's difficult. But with the partnerships and dedication that every entity might be using and doing and employing, of course, it's possible for all of us to cater the vision and mission that is to provide quality education for our learners. So there are 3 keywords for this: equity, relevance, advancement. And we are talking about the instruction, the community engagement, research, production, and innovation. So alongside with the pandemic that we are experiencing, we need to also take a look at the other sides. It's not only about ICT. Everything should be balanced so that we can gauge the best learning experience for our students in the school we are leaving. So, as a matter of fact, the vision and mission made by these agencies have been anchored from the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are 17 goals or global goals which are actually targeted that by 2030 these issues and problems, global crisis, will be maybe mitigated, or maybe some of them will be solved. For example, there should be no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality. So all of these things are actually embedded, and we are actually encouraged to inculcate this one in our content, right, my dear teachers? And who would never thought that you're actually bombarded with heaps of Philippine teaching excellence framework, but at the end of the day, we're still here, we're still smiling, and we're always saying bring it on. For example, when OBE in 2012 was introduced, at the onset, teachers were having the capacity building as regards outcome-based education, the revision of the syllabus, and creation of modules or instructional materials. We also have the Philippine Qualification Framework, the HNRDA, the K-12, the TESDA, UNESCO, ICT, CFT. So these are actually the basis of who we are today. Of course, we should not forget the rise of COVID-19. That's the big challenge nowadays. How do we cope up with the needs and resources to be used in the school? So the changing landscape of education actually could be catered from the internalization of higher education and global mobility, the call of Industry 4.0 by the companies who would like to employ globally competent and highly technical graduates, ASEAN integration, the K-12, and the recent one is COVID-19 or coronavirus 2019. So this is indeed a big challenge, and as a teacher, there is no better way for us to always be alert and innovative along the way, because nobody will do it for us, and we are mandated to do this because it's part of our calling and passion as educators. But the problem here is the rising tide is failing to raise all boats, which means that for those who are already in the system, for those who already have the capacity for connection, can avail of the process, because I believe there are teachers who are scholars of Australian aid, AusAid, what else? USAID and other scholarships. They attend trainings because they're asked by their employers. I mean, all opportunities are somewhat selective, while others do not have access. No, that's the main problem. Especially now, I presume that not all teachers have the mobility to internet connection. They don't have a proper training on LMS. They're just doing it through webinars, and I don't know how would it turn out, right? So there are several considerations that need to be taken care of. Okay, so let me cite you this thing. You know, when we are citing the researchers per million inhabitants in 2011, the Philippines got 149 researchers. So imagine how huge for us, no, to do a catch-up strategy to solidify and strengthen the production of our scientists. This is actually from the UNESCO Institute for Statistics. And when it comes to top-sided researchers per million population, Philippines is at the bottom. Okay, so this is from the Thomson Reuters in 2014. So you can see that our country here, look at that. So it brings us to a reflection of where we are in terms of research. Now, as to Philippines versus Southeast Asia research output, take a look where we are in terms of the production of research and scientists. We are 8% only in 2013. However, take a look at Malaysia's spectacular growth, right? Maybe they have applied mechanisms and other strategies in order to cope up with this call, okay? Okay, so when it comes to number of science papers in the Philippines, look at our rank. Okay, so the Philippines is ranked after Indonesia and Vietnam and is relatively small. Okay, so and note that fields are covered by the papers are coming from medicine, agriculture, and biology, biochemistry, genomics, and molecular biology, and environmental science. So this is a great reflection for who we are now in terms of redesigning our content, no? Because our students really need to be trained when it comes to critical thinking, researching, when it comes to collaboration and other things. Okay, so here, which Asian countries are the most innovative? Look at our rank. We are number 11, the least innovative country. Okay, so that's in 2018. No? By the Global Innovation Index. Okay. So it's quite alarming, isn't it? However, with the current result of the Global Innovation Index 2019, our country has been topping the list. We're actually number 54. We are actually number 54, and it's a great improvement already for all of us. Let me give you the rationale behind this. My dear teachers, take a look at this. In 2014, okay, out of 143 countries, when it comes to being innovative, like production of researchers and scientists, we were number 100 out of 143. In 2015, out of 141 countries, we were number 83. In 2016, 128 countries, we were 71. 127 in 2017, and we were top 73. In 2018, out of 127, we were 73 still. And luckily, look at the leap of faith that we are experiencing. Out of 129 countries, we were number 54. Okay, so you can see that our country is actually improving and innovating when it comes to research, productivity, and innovation. So this is a great news for all of us. Do not take away research from our system. It should be part of our mission to always nurture our students to become critical thinkers and researchers. Okay, let's take a look at the evolving educational landscape of today with COVID-19. Well, our students today are born digital media rich, where infinite network of possibilities are within their world, right? They do have gadgets, laptops, resources. But you know, my dear teachers, this should not be the foundation or the crucial role of us to always instill in them the importance of technology, because on top of it, they should be trained how to be self-empowered learners, creative, innovative learners. So the mission is to provide them with all of the 21st century skills that they need to acquire when they land for a job. Okay, self-management of our learners. According to the NEDA, the goal and the aims of the basic education is focused on strengthening early and childhood care and development programs, pursue full implementation of the K-12 program, strengthen the inclusion programs, develop and improve intervention programs, continue curricular reforms on ICT integration, enhance teacher and students' competencies in research-based undertaking. So there is a community of participation within the community of educational reform. So teachers and administrators must be inseparable in crafting their educational programs and infinite possibilities that to be provided for the students so that they will possess and acquire the competencies in various aspects. So the Department of Education in 2013 has been encouraging the teachers to always instill the 7 C's. Okay, I guess you're familiar with this, but let us have a short recap. The first one is critical thinking. So as teachers, we are all duty bound to empower our students to become critical thinkers. Okay, for example, in a certain lesson, we are going to pose a problem question, and at the end of the lesson, they are expected to uncover and find solution to the problem presented by the teacher. The next one is communication, where at the end of the day, at the end of the lesson, students are expected to produce articulation of thoughts and ideas. They are able to share their own construction of meaning and understanding. They are given the chance to have the ownership of their own principles and ideas. And of course, this is facilitated by the teacher. Collaboration. I told you about physical distancing, where I know our students nowadays have the anxiety because they are used to face-to-face interaction. But collaboration is really vital to making them more interactive and productive learners. So I hope in your content materials you're going to also infuse other strategies when it comes to collaborative learning, like group work, surveys, interview, etc. Okay, the next one is creativity, where students are expected to be designing, doing, applying, creating something at the end of the lesson. So we are just there to guide them, to navigate in them, the theories learned, and for them to apply it in their own setting. Next one is cross-cultural understanding, where we know that they come from diversified backgrounds and diversity. So it's our role to always instill in them the power of being empathic to different learners. And the last one is career self-reliance. It is our purpose that our students would graduate to become leaders of tomorrow. So when you design your content, pedagogy, and technology supported environment, never forget these 7 C's. Because the authors, John Bradsford and others, have been demonstrating and describing it through this analogy about elephants, which is taken from the poem The Blind Man and the Elephant by John Godfrey Sachs, where accordingly from the authors, we're always asking for the equity and excellence along the way so that we can best serve our students. But then the educational programs that we are offering accordingly from these authors are actually like that of the elephants, right? Which consist of the multiplicity of systems and which need a robust interconnection of how students will be able to access and enjoy the quality learning, heading off to maintaining the culture of excellence. So, to improve the quality of higher and technical education and research for equity and global competitiveness in an unfolding pandemic, these things are actually crucial and trajectory to making our learning communities vibrant and viable in supporting our learners. The first one is enhance community-based training groups. And I appreciate the Department of Education that shed because heaps of webinars are given to teachers in order to capacitate their skills and knowledge when it comes to dealing with the current paradigm shift that we are about to face. Provide access to relevant research and innovation opportunities. Okay, so when we embrace online learning, let's try to tickle the senses of our students by providing and designing modules or content which would solidify and calibrate their critical thinking skills. Ensure globally competitive ICT programs. It's the job of the government to maybe produce and present viable ICT programs so that the entire country would, especially the educators, would be able to compete with the current challenging times. Expand access to higher education, although the Philippine educational system has been vouching and presenting and offering the free education for state universities and colleges students. Integrate 21st century competencies and promote project-based learning. So it boils down into one, okay? Production of empowered learners. That should be our personal mantra as educators in the country. So still according to NEDA, there is a need to strengthen quality assurance programs, improve ICT research and extension services, expand government, academia, industry collaboration, promote excellence for basic and tertiary education. So that at the end of the day, the global market would be very happy to welcome Filipino students, scientists, and researchers who are performing well locally and internationally. We must be proud of our roots by producing such type of learners. And it's our job to always settle for the best type of education we cater and deliver to our clienteles. So strengthen the eminent culture of research and excellence in our country. And according to Robert Solow, a Nobel laureate in economics and research in 1987, he actually told and stressed that only possible source of growth in the long run is ICT innovation in research, such as advancing in science and mathematics. Okay? So what do students learn? Because we are capacitating ourselves nowadays when it comes to content, pedagogy, and technology-supported environment. Are we going to give justice to what the Department of Education and Commission on Higher Education have been telling us to do this and that? Will our students be capable to learn synchronously and asynchronously without the face-to-face interaction? Are they going to be productive citizens of the country after a year, 2 years, or moving forward in 5 years? What would be the situation of the Philippines? And you as an educator, what do you learn in this situation of unfolding pandemic? Were you able to ask your mental health, or are you was there a time you cried because you felt the loss of your co-Filipinos in this time? of tribulation? Were you able to discover some relatives who were terminated from this virus? Were you able to trace the condition of your students and learners? So these are just some of the mind-boggling questions that we need to address. It's the students' safety and survival along with this time of COVID-19. So alongside with the pandemic that we are experiencing nowadays, of course, we do have disruptors like the internet, the nanotechnology, and artificial intelligence, and the COVID-19. So heaps and majority of the materials we're getting are actually from the internet. We have open educational resources, commons, and other audio and video materials. So we should embody the sense of being careful when it comes to selecting the best learning resource for our students, because on top of it, they're just supplements. What is important is the pedagogical content, knowledge that we are instilling to our learners, so that at the end of the day, we can produce holistic learners. So this is basically the future of learning. We're actually experiencing it nowadays, the digital revolution. Okay, so the magnanimous creation of highly augmented technology like the virtual reality, artificial intelligence introduced in the classrooms. How do you deal with that? Are you ready? Do you have the capacity, the resources? So there's no better way for us not to embrace this challenge, right? Globalization, which could range politically. Our country has been tapping ASEAN countries, the European Union, the UNESCO, and any other organizations in order to seek help, maybe, to connect so that we can share and benchmarks programs. Culturally, we try to embrace the culture of other countries, right? We are also accepting technological balance because we are using gadget, laptops, etc. And never forget that the continuous learning must be embedded and must be shared to our learners. So from these three elements, we shall never forget that the main aim is to educate the learners. Okay? So capacity building is crucial and serve as the foundation to making this possible. I have mentioned a while ago that we need to invest in human and intellectual capital in ICT programs, and of course our country is doing it naman, and they are really sparking programs when it comes to this. So let me give you the quick tips for reaching a unified approach in your schools, okay? Especially now that we are on the verge of experiencing a not so good situation, okay? So first one is keep it simple when you are going to introduce a learner management system to your students, because in college maybe you'll be asked by your administration to do this particular platform. Okay, so keep it simple, less is more. Do not bombard your students with all of the content, sophisticated technology, and many other internet of things that your students might be confused at the end of the day, because they're always getting the information fastly without even processing it. The next one is be kind to yourself. Be sure that do not be pressured with all the things that you see, hear, and receive from your friends, from your employers, from the things we learn from the internet. Take your time, okay, and choose the best platform which would illuminate the best possible learning experiences in your virtual classroom. Seek feedback. No? So this is important to monitor your progress as a teacher, or when you maintain feedback to your classroom situation, your students would be guided. Trust your professional judgment. Never doubt your capacity to invent something and design something. What you just need to do is to sit down, plan out, do, evaluate. The things that you cover and do every day when it comes to content pedagogy and technology supporting environment. Collaborate. You can never defeat the purpose of being collaborative with other teachers, educators. One of the best ways to do that is to enroll yourself in an LMS. I've been using Schoology for 3 years, and part of the LMS is the Schoology of Educators. You can actually meet numerous educators from around the globe. You can ask questions and share your experiences along the way. Okay, and lastly is for you to do your best with what you know and you can do. This is one of the best things that we should never forget, okay? Because we would be very proud and happy that at the end of the day, we were able to give justice to what our Almighty God has been calling us in serving the best special people in the classroom, and that's our students. So this is the Harmonized National Research and Development Agenda of the Philippines, or Ambition Natin 2040. So as you can see, it talks about the national integration, basic education, health, agriculture, aquatic and natural resources, industry, okay, and disaster risk reduction and climate change. So I guess this will be modified with the recent problem that we are experiencing now. And I guess the Philippines is, although there are several issues confronting our country, but I guess I'm still proud of our government. Okay, so in the time of pandemic, do not forget that we are also bound to maintain an excellent instructional design for our students. It's our best practices in the virtual classroom. Okay, our preparation as we go face to face, maybe in after a year or in 2 years time, right? So we do have here 21st century practices in instructional design. We have constructivism, student learning, problem-based, and the research approach. So when we say constructivism, this is being introduced by Jean Piaget, where he says that there should be an active learning in the classroom situation where students explains, creates, designs, applies, and the teacher's role is just to cast as a facilitator or guide. No, it's the job of the student to uncover, a solution to a particular problem question. Student learning, okay? We need to see to it that the content, pedagogy, and technology supported environment that we're doing nowadays would capacitate our students to become flexible learners nowadays. The problem-based learning, which focus on problem-based questions which need solutions, and the research-based, of course, where students' capacity to look for and uncover for things new to them would be best facilitated. So problem-based learning from traditional learning, for example, we're just told what they need to know, memorize it, etc. But now, for the problem-based learning, there is a problem assigned, identify what needs to know, and they're going to learn and apply to solve the problem. It's their job to look for that solution and not us giving it. So again, I have mentioned this one, that constructivism principle has been introduced by Jean Piaget. At the end of the day, it's our main goal to produce active learners. okay, in our own classroom situation. It could be face-to-face or a virtual classroom learning. And student-centered learning, where academic support must be best facilitated. And this could be done through educational programs to be offered by the government, the learning experiences that need to be undertaken by these learners. And crucial is the role of the teacher to choose the best possible learning experiences that they need to have. And instructional approaches. We do have differentiated instruction for collaboration. We do have critical thinking in order to cater the problem ability of the students to solve it. Okay, and many other instructional approaches which are basically important. And do not forget the research-based learning. Okay. I hope the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education would always instill and nurture the capacity to always lead the example of producing the research-based learning by training our students to become mindful and resourceful when it comes to choosing the learning materials they are selecting via the social media, the OERs that they are downloading, the commons that they are watching. So aside from learning, they are also embedding the capacity to be researchers and scientists. So it means to say that successful integration means preparation of the whole child to become holistic learners, okay? To be able to calibrate their think, feel, and do profile, problem solving, and persistence. These are the keys to becoming and preparing our students to become highly competent individuals. Okay, so let me share to you the essential qualities of innovators. We do have curiosity, collaboration, integrative thinking, action, and experimentation. So if you're going to observe, it boils down to one attribute of being inquisitive, asking questions. And from the questions that the student has in his mind, he or she would collaborate, maybe ask his teacher, the classmates, and share his ideas and opinions. Integrative thinking, where this child would be able to explore on other subjects as well and do his or her own thing. And my dear teachers, we should never forget that our students are bound to make mistakes, and it's our job to maybe process it and basically accept that they can also learn from their own construction of meaning and understanding. So actionable recommendations: more mentors who can train the students to become self-managed learners, nurturing and enabling environment for mentors and students, research collaborations and undertakings, and production of faculty and student researches is one of the 3 ingredients to becoming a world-class institution. So it should be an inseparable relationship between the teacher and the student to do this. And there are factors affecting production of talent, especially now that we are in the time of COVID-19. Intrinsic, extrinsic, must love first before bloom. Safety and survival, and it is our right to provide quality education to our students. Okay, so to end, let me share this with you. Any teacher who can be replaced by a computer deserves to be. So we need to embrace, adapt, and reflect on the various things that we learn, see, and do every day, because the future of our learners also depend on us, teachers. So, my dear participants, if you have questions, you may email me via Gordonas@pup.edu.ph or via my cell phone number. Okay? Maraming salamat po.